Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today's guest was born in Kazakhstan and grew up in Stockholm, Sweden since she was 9 years old after coming from Russia. Prior to competing, this athlete was in dancing, ballet, and figure skating. She works as a full-time online physique and posing coach, helping competitors and lifestyle clients to achieve their goals. She personally started her competitive. I can't read today, y'all. Get ready, buckle up. It's gonna be fun. She started her competitive journey in the other IFBB Federation, which we're gonna explain that today. But then went to compete in 4 shows with the NBC Worldwide and win her pro card in Finland in 2021 before making her pro debut in Las Vegas in 2022 and now continuing to compete through 2023 and 2024. Welcome to the show, LILIANA Sakhanova. How are you doing?
Hi, girl. I'm good. I'm good. Everything's fine. It's Sunday, chilling a little bit. So it's
Yes.
exciting to be here. How are
I'm
you?
so happy. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm
Me too.
grateful you made the time. I know it was kind of like we were scheduling last minute, but I'm so thankful and I'm excited for me to connect with you and everybody else to hear this. So, as you know, I always start the episodes by asking, is there anything you do or think about, or maybe a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage?
Oh God. That's a good question, actually. Let's see. What am I doing? I'm just trying to breathe, basically, I guess. And just like my kind of thing is I always take like 3 deep breaths and that's it, and just calm down, just try to connect and focus with your mind and be present as much as you can, of course. So that's basically it, I guess.
Have you
Wait,
ever have you ever experienced a time on stage where you felt disconnected from your mind?
oh yeah, 100%. Yes, several times. Yes.
Really?
Unfortunately.
Yeah,
Yes.
so what was different about those times compared to when you are grounded in the present?
I think it depends on if I feel the pressure, like before,
Hmm.
like, kind of like if it kind of if there is kind of pressure for that show specifically. Sometimes I feel more pressure. I don't know why. I think like we competitors just set up that pressure on ourselves sometimes, and that's not a thing, obviously. And that's where I feel I'm not connected as I would be like in
Mhm.
usual times. Because when I'm just relaxed and chill, like whatever happens, happens, you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
that's the best outcome. But whenever I'm just too pressured, too stressed out, that's not a good go.
Interesting. Okay, so pressure. This is something that I feel like we don't get the opportunity to talk a ton about because I feel like, especially in your case, you're coming from a completely different country, at least in the last, let's say, 2 years, competing in America, a brand new place. And there's not just the pressure of now you're standing next to like completely new athletes, right? Like, yes, you've seen the competitors where you're at, but then you come to America probably with, I'm assuming, some preconceived notions. And what I've heard from other athletes is like America is like the standard you're trying to stand next to.
Yes, 100%. Exactly. That's what you kind of anticipate as well. Like when you're coming to America, like, okay, this is the real deal. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is
Yeah.
the real shit. You have to be prepared for everything. Maybe last call outs, third call outs, whatever happens. So in that case, I think it's important just to kind of go with the flow and be present and just enjoy the show too, and not feel too much pressure. And that's what I did when I was in America, like the first shows, like when my pro debut was there in Vegas. I just felt so like, whatever, it's chill.
Wow.
So that was kind of fun.
That's awesome. The fact that you felt that way in your first show in America, I would have assumed the opposite. So that's incredible.
Yeah, that was like at least like the first show, like my pro debut in Vegas. Yeah, that was kind of like a little stressful. Like I felt like, it's your new pro, like you don't know what to expect, you don't know what's gonna happen. So that was a little just like nervous kind of thing. But the second show at the Reno, that was just whatever, I'm having fun. Like I'm just gonna do my thing. And that turned out really great. So that's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing that anymore. So I'm trying to find that balance back a little bit now.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think too, like if you go through these ups and downs as a competitor, it can start to make you question or wonder, like, am I
Yeah.
doing the right thing before I get on stage, or am I doing the right thing in general? And although you had shared that this was like the best prep ever for you so far, there it doesn't take away from the fact that sometimes placings aren't what we expect, outcomes aren't what we expect. And I'm curious how you have personally navigated that because when you came the first time, you were on a roll, really, with your competing, always placing in the top 10, and things have kind of changed. But your prep has been so good. So, how do you navigate that mentally?
Yeah, so that was like it is pretty hard still to think about that. Like because as I said, like in the first year, like everything was just uphill, right? Everything goes
Mhm.
great, like and it was awesome. And then something happened. I think it was just kind of a mixture of like personal life happened, life happens, shit happens.
It's just,
So, what I'm saying? So, like, it's been a lot, like, other factors that just mattered in that case, like maybe wrong people in my life, not the best support, like, not the best place, just mentally, tired body. As you know, of course, as competitors, we want to, like, kind of compete all the time, but maybe that's not good for everybody. Like, some people can compete for several shows and do great, but some people just, your body looks tired. So that's been kind of hard, to be honest, like the past 2 years now, not being at the top anymore. And that plays a huge role, of course, in your self-confidence. Like just how you feel about yourself. You just feel not worthy enough, maybe. Am I doing the right, as you said, like, am I doing the right thing? Am I even good for this? Like, am I gonna come back? Like what I was doing before, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's been kind of a roller coaster, to be honest, like emotionally wise.
yeah.
It's been really hard, and not just like kind of, maybe thinking about yourself that you are not like me as a person, Lily. I'm not connected to the competitive person. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, like, my own self-confidence shouldn't be affected of that, but it does, I think, for most of us,
Oh, for
unfortunately.
sure. And like the the desirable thing would be to separate the two.
Yeah,
But it's difficult when competing is one of those things that really does it's part of every single day life and every
yeah,
moment of every single day life. A lot of our decisions as athletes is based on, well, my competitions and da, 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 or well, I'm
exactly.
in my improvement season, so da, 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 da. Like we're making decisions for our life based on one single moment on stage, which is kind of nutty when you think about it, but that's the sport, that's the drive. So I can understand that like you want to separate the identity, but also it's like that's part of what makes the mental health side of competing so important to me and also just important in general
Yeah.
because it's wrapped up in every single thing we do. To separate it is quite the challenge. So what are some of the things you do to support your mental health when you're facing that?
So I've been actually going to my psychotherapist for kind of like 3 or 4 years or something, and that helped me a lot. Not just for that, but just like, of course, I have like previous trauma in childhood, blah blah blah, all the shit. So I've been trying to work on that, like just understand why that affects me as much. Maybe it shouldn't affect sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like I take
Mm.
things too personally, maybe like in just understanding why it's happening. So a lot of those things I think comes from childhood trauma and shit that happened in your life before, just like life in general. So you have to like kind of go through the process in your own way and understand that like competing should be fun too, right? We should enjoy being there, doing what we're doing and not feeling too much pressure as we were talking about. But so it's kind of like, yeah, so psychotherapy has been my kind of go-to and trying to right now, at least when I'm on my off season, just disconnect with like everything and just trying to relax a little bit more before I'm going back to it. I think that's important for me at least because I remember like before my pro debut, I just had like kind of a good off season, just like relaxing. And sometimes you need that. Like not, of course, you're gonna do the same things as you do in prep, prep your meals, blah blah blah, and like training, but not feeling as stressed and pressed. like if that makes
Hmm.
sense.
Yes.
Yeah, trying to disconnect a little bit from that.
So, how do you approach your improvement season compared to your prep to support that also?
So always before, to be honest, like last like 2 years or something, I've just been like on it 24/7, like try of course, like and the weight gain is hard for everybody. It's been hard for me as well. And um, especially this time, I was like it's been harder than ever in some ways. I don't know why, but it just felt like, oh my God, like you're not an athlete, you're not good enough, you're not doing this. But at the same time, I know that's exactly what I need to be able to come back stronger. So you
Mhm.
have to accept the fact that you can let go a little bit. Yes, you're gonna gain weight. Yes, you're gonna just like, but live your life a little bit for a moment and be present in that. Just relationships, we have a renovation going on in the whole apartment
Yeah.
right now. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of things that matters more and is important for you as a person too. So that's what I'm trying to do right now. Just like, okay, it is what it is right now. Yes, you look not the same, obviously, but you need it. You need it to relax, to be able to come back stronger than ever. So that's my goal for next year. Just let it go.
Yeah, honestly, I think this is something I realized in my own journey too, that like the tighter
Yeah.
grip that I have, the
Yeah.
more I tire. And so then as soon as I tire, it's just like, okay, well now it's difficult to even grasp at anything. But when
Yeah.
you have an open hand and you're like, okay, I'm accepting that this is the lifestyle I've chosen. I like it. I'm going to live it. But also there's all these other amazing blessings and gifts that God has for me. And I want to
Yeah.
engage with them and interact with them and prioritize them. Like this prep for me has been the best ever because I've been like, there's other things that matter, like there's so
Oh,
many
love
more
it.
things to life. And so I think it's great that you're saying that and also that you promoted getting support, seeing a psychotherapist, knowing that there's other things in life that you need to address. Sometimes competitors, athletes of any sport, but we see this in
Yeah.
competitors a lot too, is, well, I can go to the gym and that's my mental health safe space. That's where I get. But that's not cognitive behavioral therapy. That's not
Yeah.
DBT. That's not, you're not doing what needs to be done. You're engaging in a healthy coping skill as opposed to, say, drinking or drugs.
Yeah.
But is it changing the patterns and the thoughts and the no?
No.
So when you started seeing a psychotherapist, I mean, you said that a lot of it was based in mental health, mental illness from a young age, and some of the traumatic experiences that you had. If you are open to sharing anything that was really maybe formed you or maybe influenced you and who you are today, what would those things be? Like those notable experiences that you're like, wow, that was a notable challenge that I overcame, but here I am now.
Wow. Where do we start? Honestly. No. And that's the thing too. I've noticed, like when I'm talking about like my hard times in life, like the traumas, whatever happened to me, I tend to laugh a little bit and make a joke out of it sometimes because that's so hard to me to
Yep.
just like understand. I've been through that, So you're trying to ease it up a little bit with jokes and funny stuff. So that's my coping mechanism too. And that's like interesting to find out as well. Like as you as a person, oh, that's what I'm doing. This is why I'm this way. This is why I'm reacting or whatever, right? You just
Yep.
find patterns. It's just so interesting. But yeah, so I grew up in kind of like hard household. Like it was a lot of violence in my house.
Mhm.
Um, my father is not present in my life anymore. I don't have any connection with him at all. My mom is good. Like it's still hard to be honest, like with our relationship, but she's always there for me. She's my biggest supporter and she loves me. I know that, but it's hard sometimes. I guess all families have troubles, right?
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of like me trusting maybe the wrong people, maybe being naive sometimes, maybe not looking out for myself as much and just like, you're always feeling guilty of something. Yes. You're like, girl.
Yeah.
So that's been a hard thing, just realizing what I need as a person, like who am I as a person, like what kind of voice is in my head? Is it my mom's voice, my dad's voice, or I will like I'm trying to find out my voice and just listen to myself nowadays and like really connect with me. And that's been a journey because I'm not the person that has been talking a lot about feelings, like self-expressions a lot. We didn't do that in my household. Like that was not a thing. So that was hard to understand how you should talk about your feelings. So that's something I'm proud of actually right now because I've overcome it a little bit. It's not 100% good, but I'm
Yeah.
on the way, getting better. So, and my boyfriend, he supports me as well with that. He's really, like intuitive, like, and he's talking with his feelings a lot. And that's where I learned that too, that it's important to talk about your feelings and your problems so you don't pile up everything and then you explode, basically. That's
Exactly.
yeah, because that's what's happening later in life when you just collect everything, you're not talking about shit. So you have to let it out, talk to someone, cry it out, maybe just be present feeling. If you're sad, be sad. If you're angry, be angry. Just be in that feeling. It's nothing wrong with that. I
Mm.
think that's been my problem. Like before, I just like kind of, oh, I'm sad now, I'm angry now. Oh, I don't want to have that. Like get away. Like I just don't want to have like it's so uncomfortable. But now I'm like, okay, it is what it is. We're trying to connect here. We're trying to understand like why we're reacting and just thinking more. Be in tune with your own self, like your brain or whatever, like your subconscious mind. So yeah,
Absolutely.
that's a little deep, but yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like it's
That's
hard to explain that,
wonderful.
but
Yeah, no, I appreciate you explaining that and giving us like an inside look at what that actually has been like for you and what were some of those roots, like to not know how to express your feelings. This is something I see all the time as a clinician too. I'm like, okay, so you're laughing, but this is a really challenging experience you're describing, or okay, like what was the feeling in that moment? Well, I don't know because I just went and did blah blah blah. So to build an emotional vocabulary is a challenge, but when you do, it's also very freeing because if we take, I always say curiosity over criticism or compassion over criticism. So when you take like why did I get angry over this? Instead of, oh my gosh, I'm mad. That's an uncomfortable feeling. Goodbye. Because we can't learn and emotions. Someone said emotions are energy in motion, and I really liked that because it kind of gives us a look at like, huh, I'm really just this is something that's built up and now it's moving through me and I can learn from this or experience it. And it sounds like that's what you've been doing. But what's also interesting to me is I want to go back to a point you made earlier, which was there was a time in your journey where you didn't have a great support system. Maybe not so great relationships, maybe not so great people in your life, but now you have a relationship that you even mentioned in a post recently how he was your boyfriend was so supportive with you backstage, and you have a lot of loving people who support you. How did you build your support system after having come from what you did? How did you then actually build and trust the support system that you were building?
wow, that was a really good question. God, Lord, that was a really good one. I'm like, damn.
Thank you.
That was a good one. I have to think about it, but I
Yeah.
think just kind of like working yourself constantly, trying to connect with your mind, as I was talking about before, and trying to trust people, like, and not being so always on the fence to people, like trying to let in the right persons. Like that's hard, I think, especially like my father is kind of a narcissist, like, and that's been my problem. Like I've let too many narcissists in my life before. And yeah, you know how that goes. It's not a
Yep,
great
unfortunately.
Yes. And you don't notice that because like of course, I grew up with that. So when I have that person, I don't notice that that person is bad for me or toxic like for me. But eventually you see all the signs. You're like, what am I doing? Like, this is not good for me. I have to bye, kind of wrapping that. So I'm thinking just a lot of lessons learned as well. That's what helped me getting through that. Just understanding that this pattern happens time over time. Like all the time through many years. So am I doing something wrong? Am I doing like, do I have to change something? And that's where I realized, okay, I need to change something about myself. And see those signs, trust myself, trust my voice, trust my gut. Because you always get that gut feeling when something is wrong, right? But you don't always listen to that, but you have to. And that's important, I think, to listen to that and be in tune with your own emotions inside of you and not just like kind of like, oh no, no, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Because I think it's hard, especially when you grow up in that household, like you don't trust yourself. That's the problem. You don't trust your feelings, you don't trust your emotions, you don't trust anything that comes in your mind. You're just questioning everything. But eventually just okay, listen to yourself actually. That's important now. So I think that helped a lot. Of course, like as I told you, like my boyfriend, we've been together for like 6 years almost now, and he went some hard days with me, to be honest. It was not as good as it is right now, of course, and we're still like in a work in progress, but he made me realize that there's other ways in life, like that you can talk about your failure, you can take other paths on your way too, like and not being stuck in the what it like not serve you anymore, basically, So yeah, I think that's kind of an answer. I don't know, like that's
That
hard to
was a great
explain.
answer. Yeah. I'm just like, I'm consumed listening because it's wonderful to hear the growth. It's inspiring. And I also think it's a great example of how a healthy person or a healthy partner can reveal some of those gaps in our thinking, or they can be a mirror versus, I think, an unhealthy partner feeds the chaos that we're used to. And you had mentioned something, which is like not dismissing essentially, and how growing up, if you're in that environment, you dismiss a lot of that because you can't trust it. But I think also you get on edge, you're hyper aware of everything. So then it makes sense why you said earlier you would take things personally, and that's something you're working on because if you're growing up with a narcissist, I mean, you're of course going to take probably everything personally.
Yeah,
Yeah, it'd be almost weird if you didn't. So,
right.
yeah, so it makes sense why then you're on edge, but now you're like, okay, bring the guard down, let people in, and your trust is developing in yourself, which is also allowing it to develop in others. And I really am enjoying this conversation because this sport is awesome. Of course, I love
Yeah,
competing, but to talk about the person behind it and the mental health and the aspects to it that influence us as athletes that don't often get shine, like have a light shine on them, is so valuable and important. So I appreciate you sharing that and talking about your past because I know it's not always easy to do. But as far as building the support system, it sounds like it came down to a lot of trust and a lot of working on your own patterns, really, and developing yourself.
exactly. Self-reflections, basically. Like you just
Mhm.
kind of staying, like trying to stay in tune with your own mind. And that's a hard thing to do. It's really hard. It's easier said than done, but you have to kind of like it's the same thing as my therapist explained to me. Like when you train a muscle, right? Like over time you get better at that. The same thing here. Like you have to over like trying to do the same thing over and over again, and then you're getting better at that. So I think it's a good like kind of thing to see it like that it's kind of what we do in the gym, but psychological instead. And it's fun too to be a better person, of course, and just develop.
Painful a little bit, just like the gym, but then you get the result and you're like, well, that was worth it.
That was good. That was nice.
I always say progressive overload for mental gains. That's what we're going for when we're
Love
doing
that.
that every
Yeah,
single day. It is progressive overload.
that's important. Like as you mentioned too, like as an athlete too, is like pro athlete, whatever like kind of athlete you are. Like I don't think people see like the person you're behind that too. Like they only see like, oh, you're on stage or blah blah blah, your accomplishments, but not the person behind that. And that's kind of sad too, that we are not showing off that part of ourselves because that's the most important part, in my
Mm,
opinion, right now, right?
yeah.
Because that's what got you where you are, like, and you don't have to be defined by your placing. So whatever, of course, that matters because we're a competitive sport. We want to win. We want to get to Olympia, whatever, with pro cards. But like the placement is not everything. That's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say. But it's hard sometimes. Of course, it's hard. Like especially when you get that placement you didn't want. You're like, I could have,
Yeah.
you know, because we're competitive people. But at the same time, it doesn't have to define you
Mm.
always. So that's something I'm trying to get better at least, and not like pushing myself down and like just I'm not good enough, I'm that, all those thoughts. Like be kind to yourself. You have to love yourself, right? I mean, that's important.
Yeah, and that's a good distinction too between like I'm not good enough and didn't win and I suck and okay, I just didn't get the placing that I was hoping for. I can do better. I can learn from this, or it was just the way things went that day. But you've always been, at least I believe the sports that you did were always judge sports, like figure skating, dancing. So I was thinking about this when I was preparing your interview. I was like, this is someone who's had a lot of experience being judged in her life for what she does. And I was curious how that's affected you, really. Like, has it made it easier in bodybuilding to be like, okay, this is a judge sport also, or has it just added to some of that? Yeah, I'm being judged for my performance. Like, what's the correlation maybe between your past experiences and this?
Good question, actually. So, I mean, like in figure skating, obviously we do have points, right? Like, so they're like seeing your performance, your skating skills, your technical skills, like you have several points, right? And you know, like somewhere when you do something wrong on like on the ice or you fall or something, that's going to be deduction points because you didn't do, and you can blame it on something else. It's you only, right? You blame on
Yeah.
yourself. You fucked up,
Yeah.
basically. And that's the
The
only thing.
ice wasn't icy enough. They're like,
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't nice. Pretty glide. You could say that, of course. But like that was different because then you knew like, okay, that was my fault. I could do better. Like I could do a better jump. I could do better period, like whatever. But here, like in bodybuilding, it's kind of different as we all know, right? Like, and some people may say, oh, it's politics or it's that or blah, blah, blah. But you just have to accept it for what it is. And of course, like it was easier to just get into bodybuilding, you know, that you're just judged by basically random people you
yeah.
don't know. And it is what it is, right? It's judging for you. Like you have to play the game. Like it's no, you don't have any choice, right? So it's not been a problem for me at all, actually, when I started to bodybuild. Like it's not, and just being on stage wasn't like something different because I was so used to that as well. So that was kind of like, okay, I feel home here, right? That feels like home. But of course, it's different because you're standing in a bikini. So that's different, right?
Yeah, a little
I
bit.
mean, a little bit. But I think that kind of like thing that you're not judged by your performance. Of course, you're judged by your performance, but you know what I'm saying? Like this is more, you know exactly what you did wrong when you're ice skating, you know, where you fall, when you don't do the right move or something, it's on you. But like it can be different factors in bodybuilding, right? Like it can be like depending on the line, depending on how much muscle we have, not enough, not here. Like it's always something that can seem unfair sometimes, which
Mm.
I feel it does
Yes,
sometimes.
that's a
So yeah,
great
it's
point.
different.
That's a really, really good point because the types of sports that you did, it was very clear, skill set wise, what was missing. Whereas in competing, you can have two people who need to hit their front and their back posts, but the way that they hit them can have the biggest impact on their outcome.
Yeah,
Whereas it's either you landed it or you didn't land it. And forgive me because I don't know a lot of the figure skating terminology, but like with bodybuilding, two people can do. I mean, we see it at the Olympia. Let's just use that for example. Everybody's incredible, nailing it, wonderful. Even if they stumble, they can still place higher because it's like there's so many more factors in that. And you made a good point too. It's your fault, if you want to call it that. Fault's not the right word, but you can't blame things like in bodybuilding, people want to blame. In any sport that's judged, people want to blame. Well, it was this, that judge wasn't looking, this judge. Even if that is true, technically we signed up for a judged sport. So we
exactly.
have to accept the factors that come with a judged sport. And you said that it hasn't really affected you negatively. It's just something you've been used to. It felt like home for you. So, what has been your feedback over the years from judges? Has it been consistent? And how have you worked to improve on that?
Now thinking about that, actually, it has not been consistent. Like it's crazy, but it's been
You
all
asked.
place. I'm like thinking about it now, like it's not like it's all over the place basically, which is kind of fun
Makes
too.
things challenging.
I mean, like it is because you don't know at the end, like what do you want from me, right? Like you're getting
Hmm.
confused, especially now when I was doing a Romania show. I'm like, I was so confused afterwards. I'm like, what do you want from me? Like, come on.
Yeah. Why? What was different at that show?
What was the feedback? The feedback was I knew about that, like, yeah, a little bit more glutes, which was not the case last year because I had too much glutes and too much, like it was borderline wellness, as Tyler
Huh.
said. So I had to downsize. So that's kind of like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's been so
Yeah.
different over the years. Like the first year as a pro, it was not a lot. It was just like too hard. That's always been my case. Like too hard,
Huh.
too hard. Like that's always been kind of staple for me. Like also in the other federations as well, like too hard, too lean. But then it changed in 2023 when Tyler was like, this is borderline wellness. This is too much, too dense, too hard, too muscular. Like everything was too much.
Hmm.
And we were like, yeah, great. So we have to downsize. Awesome.
Yeah.
Training like for legs or lower body for a couple of months, like just running basically my life away, which was really fun.
Wow. That
So,
sounds really
yeah.
fun.
And I enjoyed it though, like in the end, like because I have surgery in my both legs, so I like
Oh.
the so my previous doctor told me like you will maybe not able to run like a lot, you know, and stuff like that because it can affect you now. But I was like, well, whatever, let's try it. It was kind of fun. I enjoyed riding, so that was fun.
Oh, well, good. I think it's
Yeah.
one of those things where the more you do it, the more you start to like it. But you had surgery in both your legs. I don't know that I knew that. When was that?
Oh, that was, oh God, let me think.
Just for a tangent.
I think it was like 10 years ago or something. Yeah, 10 years ago. Like that was after my figure skating, like competing thing was over, basically. A couple of years after that, because I still had problems. I
Mm.
was having problems when I was skating as well. I had a lot of pain in my legs, like it was just burning, feeling sensation all the time. So I couldn't figure out like what was wrong, right? And the doctors couldn't figure out as well. They were like, "I will try to rest a few months and see if that gets better." It didn't. So I had to kind
Yeah.
of like end my career too.
Mm.
And then later in life, it just didn't get better. Like especially like everything felt, everything hurt. And I went to another doctor in Gothenburg, and he told me, "Well, you have compartment syndrome. It's chronic, so we have to do surgery to make you feel better." I'm like, "Well, whatever, let's go."
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, I couldn't train or like basically walk for 6 months or something. So they did like one leg at a time. So I couldn't do anything for 6 months basically. So that was a
Holy
hard time,
moly.
depressing time. Thinking about that now.
Yeah.
That was hard. But yeah, I recovered, and that I think that was the point where bodybuilding became like a huge thing for me afterwards. I'm like, okay, let's build it up again. Let's go into that. And I discovered like some girls here in Sweden competing, you know, wow, can you compete in that? Interesting. So I think
Wow.
that was the kind of the start for me, like before that too, but I got into that more after that. So that was like maybe a blessing. I don't know.
That's
It's
incredible to go from figure skating and dancing to then getting surgery on both of your legs, not able to walk for 6 months, having to go through that recovery, and then going, yeah, now I'm gonna try to put as much muscle on my body as I can and compete in bikini. That's like I can't imagine like that takes so much mental resilience though, and we'll get back to the point about the feedback, but that takes so much resilience to say to yourself, okay, well, I'm comfortable getting under some weights because that would be very scary, I think, for a lot of people after a surgery to do that. Were you at all nervous about lifting or moving in that way?
actually, no, not at all. I don't know. I've
Mm.
always been kind of like fearless person. I don't know what like something is wrong with me, obviously, but
Your amygdala's like this big.
yeah, like 100% girl, facts. It's so crazy because I've never feared anything. Like if something just feels like that's gonna challenge me, I'm like, yes, let's do it. Like I want to challenge myself. I want to do the hard things, you know? And
Yeah.
that's kind of it goes hand in hand with like I think my like me growing up as well, like the hard times. I don't know. I think that's connected to. That's how my therapist explained to me too. Like it's interesting just how
It
fucked up
is.
sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like those kind of things were just, no, let's go. It's hard, let's do it. Like I've always been that stubborn person. Like if I set up a mind for something, I'm gonna do that, no matter what anybody says. Like, and I remember my mom was like, "Oh, be careful, what is bodybuilding and blah blah blah." She was so scared. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, no, I'm gonna do that. So
Yeah.
I was determined.
You're like, now that you're scared, I'm really gonna do it because that means I have to conquer this scary thing.
Yeah, yeah, that was kind of thing. Like you have to do it. Like, come on, you set up your mind, do it now. I remember
Hmm.
my first coach, like I was like a nobody basically, right? And I'm coming through, I'm like, I want to be a pro. And she's like, girl, well, take a chill pill. So I relax a little bit. I'm like, no, no, I'm gonna be a pro. Like that was just my goal from the start. Like I'm gonna be a pro.
Wow.
And of course, people will laugh at you like, girl, you have never been up on stage. So, just get up
Yeah.
on stage first and then see what like how everything goes. But I was so determined. No, no, I'm gonna be a pro one day. That's it. And that's
Yeah.
I remember. I told you like I listened to your podcast so many times like back then and just oh wow that would
That's
be so
awesome.
cool if I could be there one day.
Oh my gosh, and
That's
here we are.
crazy. Here we are.
That is so awesome. So
Yeah.
you've not shied away from challenges and even like to be told, okay, now you're borderline wellness, like you're getting up to a completely different division and now you've got to downsize. That in itself is a challenge because you most of us we like to lift, we like to train in the gym. So how did you cope with having to shift your training protocol and then fast forward to most recently, your feedback maybe being a little different than you expected?
Yeah, so like I had no problems with that, like because I'm that kind of person. Like if you say something, like if a judge says that okay, you're too big or too muscular, whatever, you have to downsize, I'm gonna do that. Like no matter what I'm feeling, like what I wanna do, I'm just gonna do that. Because that's the feedback, right? You have to adjust your criteria as many pros says too. Like you have to adjust yourself to the criteria, what I like or not. Of course, I love lifting weights, obviously, right? We all do.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I was kind of feeling like this is what I need. I need to relax. I need to chill a little bit. I don't have like I build all I need so I can just relax a little bit, like kind of vacation. So I felt
Yeah.
like it. I was like, yeah, this is good. So we didn't lift anything for yeah, a couple of months at least. And then my previous coach, she wanted me to go to wellness, but I was like, no, 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 I'm not gonna do because I know what it
Interesting.
to go to wellness. They're huge. I mean, they're huge. So I
Hmm.
knew what I had to do, and I'm just not ready for it. I'm not there. I just love the bikini, like the physique, the criteria, and everything. So that didn't feel like me. So yeah, 2024 this year, yeah. I started with a new coach, and he says, well, we have to grow. I'm like, huh? My feedback was that, last year. But he said we want to grow, and I did that. Of course, I'm like, yes, boss, let's go.
Wow.
So we did that until like March or April or something, and then he suddenly like we have to stop all like training right now because it's getting too much. I'm like, oh, here we are again. Great. You know. So I have like I know I have like a lazy time to just build my legs and glutes and whatever, which is a good thing, but yeah, maybe not that good sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the first show of the year this year was in Alicante, in Spain, and the feedback was too soft. Was that I've never heard Judge said it. Tyler was there too.
Yeah.
He was like, too soft. I'm like, huh?
You're like, okay, now we're going the opposite way. All right. That's fine.
Exactly. So it's been all over the place. He's like too soft, which I kind of knew. I
Did you
felt that.
look too soft? Like, do you personally feel like you brought a softer package? You did.
Yes,
Okay.
100%. I told
Okay.
that my previous coach so many times. Like, I'm not feeling this is not right. I'm not supposed to look that way because some people just look better in leaner physique. Some people
Yeah.
look better in fuller physique, like right, like it's Jennifer Dore, for
Hmm.
example. She looks great. She's a little bit fuller.
Hmm.
We have other physiques that don't look as great when they're fuller. So I knew that this is not right for me, and that turned out great. So back to that again, listen to your voice, listen to yourself too.
True that.
So yeah, the second show in Portugal was basically, I think I was just so tired in my body, like because we had to get in tighter. And the problem was because we were in such a hard, like and lean shape before Spain, and we reversed back into the softer shape. Now I had to get back to that leaner shape again. So my body was like, what are we trying to
Yeah.
achieve here, you know?
Was your
Like,
body resistant? Like, did your body resist the changes? Okay.
yeah, a lot. Like I just felt so much stress in my body, like all the water fluctuations, like it just didn't feel right at all. Like that prep was not right. I just felt in my whole body, like this is not how it's supposed to feel like. Because after a couple of shows, like exactly how your body
Oh
responds.
yeah.
Many years, you know exactly where you should be. And that was not the case. I'm like, that's not gonna be my best shape as well. And it
Uh-huh.
wasn't. So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, so a lot of like I don't think I had enough of pop and just like that usual pop that I could bring to the stage. Just my body was tired. It was really tired and
Mhm.
not in tune at all. So yeah, that was kind of hard. And the
Oh yeah.
feedback was just bring a nicer bikini shape. Basically, that's it. So that was kind of like, okay, what do you mean? You
Yeah,
know?
because you're like, well, on one hand, I want to, but you told me it would be softer.
So yeah, so it's been hard with the feedbacks lately. And Romania now, I felt that I switched coaches after Portugal.
Mhm.
Um, and that was the best ever probably I've looked like besides the first year as a pro. Like I think that look was the best still, but this time was like kind of next best, right? It was really good. Like I just felt the prep was better. Like
Wow.
I felt less stressed, like just into with my body. My waistline was like super small, which I was super happy about because I don't have natural tight like small waist. I have a wider waistline. I have a rib cage, and everything that you don't want as a bikini competitor, but we're trying to work on angles, posing.
Uh-huh.
We're trying to make it work, but it looked better. And he told me, Tarek, just to show, he told me, what did he say? Yeah, a little bit more glutes and too much adductors, which I knew that was true. Like I knew that it was still too much. So now we're trying to balance it out, basically.
Yeah. If you're looking for competition heels, jewelry, and fun competitor extras, then visit shoefairyofficial.com and use code CELESTE for a discount at checkout.
So it's
Well,
hard.
that's probably a good thing though on some level that you're getting so much feedback like this because then when you nail it, you're gonna really know and you'll know everything that went into it and like how that looks, how that feels. So that's gonna probably be really rewarding. And I'm sure like it's not the best when you keep maybe overshoot or undershoot or whatever, but getting that feedback is, I think, probably really awesome. And I'm curious what you and your coach now are doing to support addressing that feedback or bringing what you want to be bringing next time.
Yeah, so that's really interesting too, because though, like I have two coaches, they're a couple, they coach together, right? And I've known them for like 6 years or something. So we started to compete together actually from like under another coach. So we were a team, right? So they were like competing at the same time. So we knew each other for a long time. And then like, they're always been there, but I've never thought like being there as an athlete, like and having them as the coaches because we're like we're both are coaches, right? So I was like, this is
Yes.
weird.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, whatever, let's try and do that. Like we have the same thoughts, how my physique should look like, what we want to achieve, what we want to bring to the stage. So it just clicked. Everything just aligned. We have the same like thoughts, like what we want to do for my physique. So it was just like everything just clicked. You know what I'm saying? Like it was perfect. So now we're trying to build up the glutes again without touching the legs, right? Because they're just so sensitive to everything. And just like kind of maintaining upper body, not doing too much, just like a little bit, you know,
Mhm.
keeping it under the same maintenance kind of thing. And just working on the glutes basically. So I have only 4 workouts a week, which is great. And they were like, oh, you're gonna feel that's like so not your thing. I'm like, no, this is perfect. I need 4 workouts. I don't want more.
Seriously. Seriously. Whenever I see my coach put 4 workouts in and it's for like I do 2 training blocks and
Yeah,
sometimes it's like 4 to 5 on like 4 days one and then 5 days. When I
yeah.
see it's four for both, I'm like, thank you. Because I
Right.
feel like I could push so much harder.
Exactly. And you recover better, like, and life
Yes.
is better.
My life,
So
I can like oh, I could do my cardio on these days, or I can like see a movie and watch and chill and hang out with my husband, you know?
Yes, exactly. Those other things come into your life. You're like, wow, I have free time. Great. I
Yeah,
can do shit now, which is awesome.
exactly.
Yeah, like I love it. Seriously, I think we need it sometimes, just having that kind of, especially like when you're not on prep, just having that we talked about at the beginning, chill down a little bit, not focusing too much, like just being there, being in your life, enjoy life a little bit
Mhm.
more, which is we all need that.
That's right.
Sometimes off season.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's so important. And you said earlier this one's been harder for you because you're like, I've had to gain weight and I know I need it and things are, but it challenges you in that way. So, what are your goals for the rest of your career or maybe into your next season? Like, what's your, I don't like saying timeline because I feel like timelines, they don't, but like, what's in your mind?
So of course we want to get to Olympia. Hopefully, God Lord,
Yes.
please help me. So yeah, we want to qualify for Olympia, trying to at least. So I think we're gonna do some shows in like August, September, like late fall, or yeah, something like that. Just trying to qualify for next year. That would be amazing because it's time. I feel like, come on,
Yeah.
we have to get that. So that's what's up like next in the competitive plans, I think. Now, I was thinking of doing spring maybe, but I think it's too early. I need to rest a little bit more, which
Mm.
I'm fine with. I need that because, as a competitors, we always want like, what's next? What's next? Let's spend the next show, like spring. Yeah, let's go. 3 months rest, and then we go again. But just being like, okay, be there for a couple of more months. I think it's important because I've heard like so many girls like in the pro level too, like in the Olympia level, they're like, well, I took 1 year off, 2 year off, like, and just being there and being tuned with your body. I think that's what you need sometimes. And I need that. I feel that I need
Yes.
that.
And if you know and you feel that you need that and like you're practicing really listening and honoring that and it's gone well for you, it's probably the best thing for you. And I found like the improvement seasons when I take like a long one, it's uncomfortable for a little bit. But then as it gets longer, I'm like, all right, I can stay here. I'm good with this.
Yeah,
Like I don't need to go back into a prep.
this is
And I'm
good.
like,
This
I
is
think
cool.
that's a good, like that's a good place to be where you're like, I might miss my improve. Like, I want to start prep where I'm still missing a little bit of the improvement season because I think that gives you like that fuel to keep your prep in a place that you enjoy the process, but also finish your prep knowing how much you loved improvement season and you're grateful and excited to get back to it.
Yes, exactly. Because like when you're rested, when you're just back it mentally, especially, I think that's where you're gonna do the best like prep seasons or shows, whatever. When you feel just 100% rested, you're like so down with your improvement season, like, okay, let's go. We're
Yes.
ready. And not feeling that, oh, do I have to cut my like food again? Do I have to do cardio now? Like, no,
Yeah.
that kind of feeling, because that's what I've been feeling for the last 2 years now. Like, "Ugh, no, I don't want to do that. Like, oh, come on. Like, I've just like kind of
Mhm.
forced myself every single day, but it's not been as enjoyable as I would love to. So that's what I'm trying to get to next time. Just
That's
getting that
awesome.
feeling back again, that drive, that like that fire you have. Like especially like at the first time you compete, like that feeling, you're
Yeah.
so you're just, oh yes, this is so fun. But I
Yep,
don't
I
know, do you
totally
have
know.
that still? Like, do you have those feelings?
I so I would say I did for I kind of lost it a little bit
Yeah.
in 2020, like my last season maybe. I mean, I had it when I was in the prep and in the thick of it and pushing and pushing. But this season I feel it a little bit more. It's just different. But I feel like when I first started competing, I was so excited to experience that and like maybe my identity was too wrapped up in what it would be like to compete, whereas now my identity's not wrapped up in it, where I'm like if I get on stage, obviously that's the goal and that's what I want and that's what I'm working hard for every single day. But if I don't get the outcome I want, it doesn't define me. Whereas I think that drive I had in the beginning maybe contributed to some of the lack of fulfillment when the placement wasn't what I wanted. So it's like a weird this prep feels so different for me where I'm still excited and I'm like, oh, I can't wait and I'm pushing in the gym and I see my physique changing and all those things and but there's also this level of I'm trying to let go more and let it be more, where I'm not being as like rigid. I'm sharing with my coach, I've got this going on in my life. Can we
Yeah.
make prep work around this? Whereas before, the Celeste, that would have been like, "Da, da, 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 da," that feeling. It was like I had to make everything work around my prep. So now I'm trying to do it. Okay, I want my life to be considered before my prep.
That's a good point. That's really important to remember. You don't have exactly that's the thing. Like I don't think many people realize that, but that's the key, I guess, to successful prep and just like keeping your life at a good level too. I think that's really important. That was really good. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's made a huge difference. And I'm like, are you kidding? Like, I think of how far I've come over the last couple years, like with that mindset, as opposed to like the rigid mindset that I had where I was so all or nothing and my identity was so in and
Yeah.
like it's enmeshed with that. Whereas now it's separate. It's bodybuilding's really enjoyable. It's a part of my life. It's something I'm excited about. This may be my last season for a while, so I'm just like enjoying it. But I'm not like so attached to the outcome. And it's funny because now as a result, my physique's better, my mindset's better, my food, everything's better. Like I'm responding better. And I'm like, if I had only known years ago, it would have been so much better.
Facts. I love it. Seriously, that's so true. Everything gets better when you're not that rigid and focused on the outcome all the time. Like, it's crazy how much difference that can make for you. I remember
Right?
you talked about like getting your life around, like the bodybuilding and shit. When I was working still, I was working as a security guard, so I had like
Oh,
armed like
wow.
guns and shit and
You were a
everything.
security guard? I was so curious what you did before, but I did not expect that.
And not many people do that actually. They're like, huh, security guard, what?
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I was working as security guard for I don't know, like 7 years or something, I guess. So it was like, we have like three shifts, like working nights, working days, working whatever times basically. And I remember competing that time, like it was so hard, like because you were basically 12 or 13, 14 hours sometimes at work. And
Wow.
you had to do your cardio, you had to do your meals, you had to do your training. So that's
Holy
insane.
moly.
I was really trying to like get everything in. So doing my cardio at 3 a.m., and my coworkers came down to our like working gym. They're like, huh? What are you doing here? I'm
Yeah.
like, no. So everything had like because you had that rigid mindset, like all or nothing, you have to do it, like, and you were so exhausted afterwards, and you knew
Yep.
that maybe not the right approach, but you did whatever you had to. You had no choice, right? But
Exactly.
yeah, so that's interesting. You want to change that like to something better now. I don't want to, of course, we want to have like all in and being in that
Yep.
mindset because we want to do the best, right? But also enjoying that. That's the key.
Yes, I find that I'm actually giving more because of that. Whereas in the past it would have been like I don't think I ever was giving as much as I'm giving now because I have more in my life that I enjoy and love. I really value that time in the gym and that time with my meals and stuff because I'm like everything is going into that because I know I can set it down for the rest of the day and go do this stuff. So it's like a weird thing, but I don't regret, like you said, like a 3 a.m. wake up while I was in my master's degree and interning and running the business. Like I don't regret any of that. I actually think it is like formidable in my athletic journey, as it sounds like it was for you too. But that's so fascinating. You had that in your history as well. I mean, where were you a security guard?
So I was living in Gothenburg, it's my hometown, right? So we
Uh-huh.
had the airport, Landvetter Airport, and I was there for a couple of years, like I think 5, 6 years or something before I moved to Stockholm. So yeah, I was an airport security officer
What
walking
kind
around.
of training? Like, do you get trained in threat detection and things like that?
Yeah, so you have to go like through a course and shit, then you have to do because it's not as easy here to get a like weapon license, right? You have to go
Mhm.
through a course, you have to be like the I think it was psychological test you had to do, then you had to pass the test of shooting, of course. So it was kind of like long test, and then you have how do you call that thing? Like you have like this the stick that you can fight with. How is
Oh
it called?
yeah, like a baton?
Yes, the baton, right, exactly. And that too.
definitely in Sweden, aren't you?
Exactly. So that's kind of crazy. But yeah, you had to do all those things and then you were good to go. So it was interesting working there. It was really interesting. Like especially just meeting all kinds of people, like working with a lot of kind of different people too. Just seeing all the things that can happen in the airport. Like people are so like it's so crazy at the airport sometimes. Like people are so just like in their mind, they're at the destination already. So they're like
Yeah,
not here anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's a great way of putting it.
right?
I don't think I could ever put it into words like me and my fiance. I keep referring him back and forth because in my mind he's my husband. But anyway, we were watching we were watching this movie last night called Carry On, and it was like about
Oh, Netflix, right? The new
yeah.
one. Was it good? I have to see it later.
It's just so funny that we're talking right after I watched it because I was like, ooh, threat detection and oh God.
That's insane, for real. Yeah, because
It was
I saw the
good.
commercial.
It was good. If you like action, it's like it's not as action packed as I thought it'd be, but it was good. Like it's interesting. It's an interesting movie. I was on the edge of my seat because I was committed to getting into it. But yeah, it was good. Anyway, oh yeah, so I was saying we were talking about how like that would be the worst job. Like I couldn't imagine working at an airport because I already can't stand I love traveling, but I hate the travel aspect because I'm like, nobody is considerate of anybody else. You'll be in line and someone just like bumping you, or you get in the plane and then suddenly no one has manners. Everybody's got to rush to the front or bum rush to the back. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, and nobody wants to help anybody. And it feels so, it's too much. So kudos to you
It's
for
true.
not just working there, but also, protecting the people there. Cause I'd be like, you got to deal with that yourself.
Oh yeah, that was hard. Like that was crazy sometimes. Like of course you had like kind of different calls here, like people, of course there were fights, there were like crazy stuff happening sometimes. So you're like, what's happening here? Like it's a lot. But it was fun too, you had your own car, you were just patrolling around like the area and stuff, like at nighttime, just banging music also. That was kind of chill sometimes
That's
too.
awesome. Yeah.
But then I moved to Stockholm and then I started to work in another like yeah, like all the security objects are like kind of secret here. So like, but
Uh-huh.
it was just kind of like TV production center here. And that was fun too because you could see like a little bit behind the scenes, a lot of the celebrities coming in sometimes. So that was kind of cool. But it was not as exciting, like not as much things happening, like as it would do at the airport, of course, as we're talking about. A lot of things
Yeah.
happen at the
Yeah.
airport. So it wasn't like as much drive and just like it was chill, like it was calm. You could watch series and just be there basically. But
Yeah. That's so
yeah,
awesome.
same.
I love that. And then now obviously you're coaching full time. So how did you transition from that to coaching? Like what inspired you to do that?
Well, I think like of course, first of all, working full time and competing full time, that's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard just getting everything together. And I felt that at some point, like I love helping people. I started basically as like just posing coach and doing that for like my years in the other federation too. So it transitioned to do NPC, of course, and then I just loved helping people. And then my previous coach had his own like obviously coaching business and stuff, right? So he asked me, do you want to be like a coach under me, like in working for me? And I was like, well, it's time to leave
Yeah.
the security job and go the way, like, and start with something I really want to do instead and start my own company and stuff. So that was fun actually. So he was the first person that got me into the coaching. And I coached before a little bit, just like clients here and there, but nothing like serious. But I was feeling like, okay, it's time now because of course, having a job full time as much as you did there, like it wasn't possible to compete around that. It was hard. So, and I love helping people and just, seeing the transformations, like doing everything, seeing the joy, the happiness, like it gives you so much to inspire and motivate people. So I felt like this is what I want to do, like full time. So we started
Wow.
with that, and then yeah, I left him, started with another coaching. I was with Fit Body Fusion for quite a time too. And now I do my own thing, basically only.
Wow. That's amazing. What did you learn from working with different teams before starting your own?
what I learned is I want to do things myself.
Yeah, I bet.
No, but it was fun actually, like because you see how they're working, like and their work ethic, like how they helping people, like they're kind of the way just they think about everything. So you learn a lot, of course. So I'm really grateful for all coaches I've had, all the opportunities I've had, because you learn so much from different people. And I don't think like also something in this industry, you don't give credit to like people in the past that you had to. And that's something I'm kind of like, I have no problem doing that, like giving credit to my previous coaches and my previous firms I worked at, like all thanks to them. It's for me to where I'm here today. Like I'm able to do my own thing instead. So I'm just grateful for
Absolutely.
everything that's been coming our way. Like obviously, whatever's up there, like everything happens for a reason, right? So you have to do the right thing. Just
So
continue that.
true. And it's better to honor like where you came from, even if there, I'm not saying there was for you, but even if there was a sour experience ever, it's better to at least look on the bright side and see what it taught you. And it relieves a lot of inner turmoil for yourself too. And obviously, you're passionate about coaching. This is something that you really enjoy, but you started as a posing coach and you referenced having done that for the previous federation that you were in. Can you explain the other IFBB? I know we talked about this. I was like, wait, I still needed to have you explain it because I know that was a really confusing thing for me was like, what's this other IFBB that these people overseas are talking about? And then maybe that'll help us even better understand like your journey from going from that federation into NPC Worldwide and the IFBB here.
Yeah, so basically we have IFBB Federation, two of them, right? One in Europe, but it's not like a Europe federation. It's like they're all over the world too, but it was before the split, right? The known
Mhm.
split in IFBB. So and then went separate ways because it was one before, one IFBB Pro League, and then they separated. I don't know, I don't remember which year that was. I think it was like 2019 maybe or something. I think it
I
was
don't
10, remember
remember.
exactly, but something like that. But basically, it's a different bikini. It's a different posing style. It's a little different criteria as well. So in Sweden, we didn't have NPC back then when I started competing. We just had like SBFF. It's Swedish bodybuilding, whatever.
Mhm.
Uh, and then that was attached to the European Elite Federation, IFBB.
Okay.
So it's a different kind of like style of posing and criteria, the judging, like and different, like they have their own thing, but still maybe kind of the same, but still not the same. It's hard to
Like
explain.
you can't compete in that and qualify for
No.
the Olympia. It's more like it's almost as though if you're a competitor in America and you decide you're going to compete in the OCB instead of the NPC.
Exactly. So it's kind of two different separate things. So if you want to go to Olympia, it's not the way you want to go. The only thing it leads to is like world championships, European championships, and elite pro card, and then but elite pro card they don't have Olympia obviously, so they have world elite championships and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, it's
where I was
different.
starting with that SBFF, like Swedish bodybuilding federation, and then I won like the Swedish Nationals, then you got invited to world championships, and then you got invited to European championships and so on. But I felt like the goal was always Olympia. Like I've always seen myself like I want to go to Olympia one day. So what's the
Interesting.
point continuing here? Right. So I was like, no, it's time to go. I've done what I could accomplish there. I've been there. I won that, that's enough for me. So I want to move forward now. And that's what I did. So I was supposed to do European championships like back then, but I decided like, nah, I'm just gonna go for NPC instead. That's better because we want
Wow.
to so
And
that
then
was interesting.
you went for the NPC, but it took not that four shows is a lot, but I mean, after having competed as often as you did, was it difficult to transition to the NPC or did you already know like you preferred like the posing but yeah, was it difficult?
I remember like I was so excited about that, but yeah, of course, posing is different, right? Because we didn't have any like posing coaches. We did because we didn't have NPC here. It was so like it was new, brand new. So I had to contact some. Yeah, I was contacting Angelica Teixeira the
Uh-huh.
first time, and it was so amazing because I been looked up to her too, like for so many years. She was my, I'm girl fan, like whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
So excited, and I remember like having those calls with her. That was so exciting for me. Just like it was nice to hear from her, like talk to her, and getting all like inspiration and just go girl, let's do
That's
it. So
awesome.
that was hard with posing a little bit, but she helped me with that obviously. And then just the transition part, I think no, it wasn't that hard. It was just like getting up there, like getting the feedback, knowing what they want, like the criteria wise. And my previous coach didn't obviously know that much of a bikini criteria, so we were kind of like trying to find what's the right look for me with all the shows we did before the first time. So yeah, that took some time, like 3 shows, but eventually we understood what they wanted from me. So we nailed it
Awesome.
eventually. But yeah, it was hard in the beginning, as you said, because it's so different in the Elite Pro. They want like more softer look. It's not as like maybe it's a softer look in general. It's not as hard, maybe, even though they don't want a hard look in bikini right now. Like it's not what the criteria is. It's like,
It's
lean look, but it's
different.
still leaner
Yeah.
than the other is. So that was the problem. The first show, it was too soft. And then
Interesting.
we're like, okay, we need to get tight, leaner. So,
Wow.
and it's not easy, especially like from European countries. You don't know what you're trying to achieve. Basically, just going up there, okay, whatever, let's try it and see.
Yeah, that's what I was also curious about. Like, do you see maybe any advantages and disadvantages to being an overseas competitor in a league that really is, I mean, in America we have shows all the time for bikini pros. So, do you see any advantages and disadvantages to being overseas?
I think there's actually more disadvantages compared to advantages
I
here, to
could say
be
it's the
honest.
same probably
Oh,
based
you
on
know what
what
I
I've
mean? Like
seen.
what he was saying too, because you have shows like all over the place every
Yeah.
single weekend, basically. We don't have that maybe. Like, of course, we could have more shows, like it's not kind of periods that is like every single weekend. But it's not all year round, and you have to travel to different countries, but you can be in the same country still. But of course, it's a lot of like it's different too, because in America it's so big, so it's basically a different country when you
Yeah,
travel.
literally.
And it's basically maybe the same thing, but it's a lot more going into that. And of course, as we all know, like when Europeans go to America, it could be different, right? Because I know they're saying it's not different judging, but I feel it is sometimes just because like how girls show up at the shows here
Right.
in Europe. So that's different. But the criteria, of course, it doesn't change. It's the same criteria all the time, but the girls are showing up harder, more lean, more dense, maybe. So that changes the outcome. And then people like, oh, it's different judging. But no, girls are showing up that way. So they have to pick the one, right?
Right.
So I think that you have to think about that too, because I know a lot of people like, oh, it's different, but it is different sometimes. Trust me, like it is.
Yeah.
uh, but you sign up for that, right? So
Yeah, and I think you just said a really good point too. Like it can be different for different sake, but also it's who and how people show up. And so what the judges are picking is based on like what's there. And I know some of the people I've spoken with in the industry, they really try to encourage American athletes to travel
yeah.
to Europe to kind of help set or maybe expand the standard and the knowledge there, which is an interesting concept because it makes you wonder, well, like, how does that affect judging? But at the same time, I think that's also why a lot of European athletes come overseas to compete. I mean, one, opportunity, but two, how do you stack up? And I'm curious when you came to America, how your experience compared to competing in Europe.
Like to be honest, I just love competing in America much more than in Europe for some reason. I just feel it's like it just feels of course, as we mentioned before, you know exactly where you're going up against, and you know that this is the standard. And that's where you want to be, right? You want to see yourself like being judged by the top judges. You want to be like have Tyler, Tarek, or Sandy too. She's amazing. I love her.
He's so amazing.
She's so nice. She's always smiling. I'm like, can
I
everybody be that?
know. And Tarek is so
But,
awesome too. He was like,
yeah.
he judged me since I was like 18 years old. And like, he's always so sweet whenever I see him. And I'm like, "Oh, I like this so much." But yeah, Sandy's she's so sweet. Oh my gosh. We're
I
really
love
lucky.
Right, we are because she's the only judge I think that is actually smiling at. But I'm like, this makes me feel so good. I love
No, look how
her.
I look good. Like you want to see.
Exactly. Yeah, so like just experience in general, I feel it's better. And like just, being backstage too with the girls, I feel like more girl like everybody's just so nice and like open. You can talk to them. Like, I don't know, like it's a little different in Europe, in my opinion. Actually, I enjoy more being in America, like in just shows in general. Like, yes, we have great shows in Europe. They're organized like perfectly. Like, for example, Romania, they have great venue. Like everything looks amazing, and the organization is great. Like some shows are not as good organized, right? Like
Yeah.
it's different. But yeah, I like US more, to be honest. Like I enjoy that more.
You know,
And
that's
just
interesting, actually. What would you say?
no, like all the connections you get with the girls too. Like I don't know, I love it. Like and people are just a little different there. Like
Yeah.
it's very fun to talk to. So
Well, that's what's so fascinating to me because it kind of goes back to what you very first said, which is pressure. And I think if you have less opportunities to compete in Europe, it might feel a little bit more tense, a little bit more pressure. Whereas in America, so many of the athletes that I've interviewed, majority of them are Americans, but I have expanded a lot, thank goodness. And I get to talk to a lot of people like yourself. But the Americans that I speak to, a lot of them share how grateful they are. There's so many shows. It's very much enjoy, but I think that's part of it. It's like if you know you have another potential opportunity to compete next week, is there as much pressure as when there's a scarce amount of shows? I imagine that probably has something to do with like how people maybe interact or feel backstage.
yeah, I think yeah, probably that's why. Like we have more pressure. We don't have as many shows, and you know that if you miss that one, oh girl,
Yeah.
like, you don't
See you
have any.
next year.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, like some kind of months we do have like shows every single weekend, but it's still this like different countries. So it's still you have to do all the travel back and forth, and it's like a little harder, of course, when you have to fly everywhere too. It is hard sometimes. And like just I don't know why, but yeah, people are like just more tense sometimes here, in my opinion.
I got you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said that you prefer competing here. Is there like a favorite place in America that you've been or like a memory that you have that you're like, "Oh, I would love to do that again."
I mean, I love Vegas. I don't know why. I just feel
Yeah,
like
it's
I
so
like it
fun.
there so much. Like I've been there majority of time, so I do feel like home over there. So yeah, I would love to do like another Vegas show, maybe probably, or a Legion show. I just felt like that was a good organized show, and it was just like being on stage. The pictures look great, like and everything back. Like it was just awesome experience. But also other shows. I mean, all the shows I've been there, like they've been good, but Vegas feels like home. I don't know why it does. Like a
And you
second
have good
home.
connections in Vegas too. Like you've actually built a community out there, haven't you?
Yeah, like a little bit all over, probably like different states and cities, but mostly, yeah, Vegas. I do have some good friends and people there, which I'm super grateful for the sport too. Like we have so many new connections we build, right? New friends we meet. Like it's amazing what the sport does for us. It is amazing. I love
It
it.
is. Yeah. So I have another question just about travel. Like, how do you handle international travel and being away from home for so long to compete here? Because when I think about that, I mean, it's hard enough to just say, oh, I'm going to spend 2 weeks somewhere else, but to like literally come for a while and stay and compete. And how do you set up like a whole environment for yourself to thrive in here?
Well, I mean, God Lord, yeah, that's hard sometimes because you literally, like, especially from Sweden here, like when you travel to America, right? Like it's across the world, and you know that when I'm up and awake, my family or my boyfriend's sleeping. So it's like so
Exactly.
different. So you're kind of like alone in that case. But I don't know, like to be real, like Sweden is so depressing. Like it's so it's so cold. Like it's dark all the time. So when you come to
Uh-huh.
America, like just general travel, you're like, yes, finally. Like
Yeah,
it's getting out of that shell.
that's
So it's
awesome.
just enjoyable. But I think it's important to just like set up for yourself, like what do I need? Do I need a kitchen? Do I need an Airbnb? Do I need this?
Mhm.
Like, and just be like being kind of focused. I think that's important to
Yeah.
be well, like okay, exactly like this is what I need, this is what I have to get. Like, can I find out where to do groceries, where to train, what do I need a car, like, and just being organized in that case. I think, and of course, like it's not easy getting everything done right the first time. So you
Uh-huh.
learn, right? Like when you travel a lot more, you learn more. So you know exactly what you have to expect, like what you need. But yeah. It can be lonely sometimes, of course, as I mentioned, like especially when you're alone. But if you build a good community, just friends overseas too, that could be a fun experience. So it's just depending on it's what you make out of it too. I think like you have to be kind of like, oh, I'm blessed to be overseas, like I'm blessed to be doing this and traveling around the world. Like, of course, it's fun. Yes, maybe we're not seeing as much, like, you know, because people are sometimes, oh, you get to like travel over there and here. That must be amazing. I'm like, yeah, I'm in my hotel room all the time. Awesome. You
Yeah,
know?
exactly. You're like, I'm not exactly like walking down the streets of Times Square eating pizza and looking at the lights.
Yeah, so it's like it's kind of not what people expect sometimes, but it is what it is, right? Like it's just fun being able to do what you do. And yes, I think the problem maybe is to like it's expensive to travel, especially to the US, and I guess like travel to Europe is expensive as well. I can imagine. Like, so of course, maybe
Very,
that's the issue too, you know, like maybe not a lot of people can travel overseas because it is expensive.
it
Being
is. That's
it is.
right. Yeah. I mean, that's another thing too, is like a lot of European athletes, I feel like just to be able to travel to America, they've got to save so much money and then also work. Like, not everybody is an online coach that can pick up their work anywhere. So, that's part of probably a disadvantage for a lot of athletes too, is like they maybe have a couple opportunities to get qualified for the Olympia. And so then the representation isn't as high.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, like for example, last year when I was there for like 2 months or something in America, like I was expecting, well, that's gonna be my best season ever, you know, like, yes, let's
Yeah.
go doing all the shows, but it turned out totally different than what I was expecting. So in that case, I was like, okay, I already have tickets like back and forth flights, right? I can't do anything. I have to be here. And of course, that is expensive being there for 2 months, right?
Oh, yeah.
Especially when things are not getting like the way you expect it to be. Like it doesn't turn out that way.
Mhm.
So you have to be prepared for everything. Like you have,
100%. You really, really do. And I think if you expect it's going to be this amazing trip, vacation, it's probably not, no matter if you're traveling to or from. But it's incredible to hear that you prefer competing in America. You've made a lot of friends, you've got a great community, despite that it can be sometimes lonely when you're separated from your family and your boyfriend. There's a lot of good things about it, and it's something you enjoy. So I'm glad to hear that. Honestly, I think that's so awesome and it's going to support you in achieving your Olympia qualification goal. Now, another thing I was thinking about is when a competitor is in Europe, I think they do feel that the judging is different.
yeah.
How would an amateur, like, how would you explain it to an amateur competitor in Europe who wants to go pro, but maybe they feel like they keep missing the mark, like they can't get the right look, they can't get the right posing, maybe they don't feel like they stack up against the Americans. Like, what do you tell your European competitor clients?
Ooh, I basically tell them the truth.
Yeah,
Like it just depends who is showing up, like what lineup is gonna be, like what judges prefer, maybe because all the judges prefer different looks. Maybe some prefer leaner, some prefer fuller, or whatever, right? It depends on it. Just like be consistent, do it all over again, like and just come back stronger and listen to the feedback, apply that, and go back to it. Like there's nothing you can do basically, just doing all over the like things all over again 100 times maybe. Like I
yeah,
know here in Europe they've tried to win their pro card for like I don't know I know one girl, Christina, she did, I think it was like 10 or 11 shows or something to win her pro card. So that took a lot
Wow.
of time. And you just
You'll
have to
have
be
to
patient.
send me her page so I can connect with her.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's amazing too. She's super sweet. I mean, all the girls here, like well, most of them, like they're super sweet here too. But yeah, she had to fight for a long time, and some people don't. Like it's so different. Like I don't know, maybe right time, right place. Everything just depends. But yeah, I have not seen so many American like NPC competitors in Europe. Actually, that's really interesting.
Right.
That would be so cool to see that because I know we're having like two shows here in Sweden coming up in spring and then in fall, better body shows. And I know they told us that some American competitors, NPC competitors, will come and travel here and compete here, which is not like that usual. So like, well, that's exciting. I want to.
Yeah. That's
That's
so awesome.
yeah. So I think like maybe people just should like try and see maybe it's better, whatever. Like, but everything depends on the lineup. Is it your day? Do you look the best? Maybe some other factors. Like it can depend on so many things. There's nothing you can do about it sometimes. It is what it is.
So true.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the truth. And
Right?
that's like a good message just in general. And obviously, you've shared so much that would be considered great advice, but I do want to ask you for your best advice now. So, what is your best advice for somebody who has never competed before but wants to, as well as your best advice for somebody who's on their road to pro?
Ooh. Okay, never competed before. Just be consistent. Believe in yourself. That's important to do. Because if you're not believing yourself, nobody else will. Nobody else. Like you have to have that faith in you. Like don't lose faith, don't lose hope, never. And be consistent. Do like act like a pro. If you want to become a pro, obviously act like a pro. Do things that I pro would do. Don't get discouraged over placings. Like, just get back to it all over again. Because I know some people can get like, they getting discouraged maybe or just sad, like, oh, I'm not good enough and everything. But no, keep that as a drive. Like, oh no, okay, let's go. Let's get better. I'm gonna show everyone. Like, what I'm saying? Like, just I think in general, believe in yourself is really important. Don't listen to everybody that says different, maybe, because that's, of course, people will always think and say what they feel and whatever they want to say, but you don't have to listen to that. Just stay consistent. Listen to your coach. It's
Yeah,
important.
you listen to that person.
Listen to that. Like, and be open and learn new things as well. And yeah, enjoy the ride, I guess, while it is like because you never know like when your last day will be in competing. So trying to enjoy that. I think that's important to mention too. I remember a friend told me that like enjoy every single show because you never know when that will end, which is true in general in life. You never know.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
right. That's kind of deep, tragic.
that's so good.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, that's a good reminder for life and enjoying the process and enjoying like every moment you do have because it may be fleeting.
Yeah, like and also like dreams are important. Like you have to dream, you have to remember that, like because everything starts with the dream, basically. Everything that is in life, like everything, nothing happens unless it's a dream first. And then it gets to reality, but you're the only one that can get it to reality. So it depends how much you want
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Lily. That is awesome. Seriously, I feel like just this whole conversation has been so easy, so
it.
awesome, and I want everybody to be able to connect with you, work with you, support you as well, follow your journey. So how can they do that?
So you can follow me on Instagram, Liliana Sakhanova. It's a long ass name. I'm sorry, I have to change it. I know. Liliana Sakhanova, IFBB Pro. You can follow me. I've tried a little bit of TikTok thing, so I have a TikTok too, Liliana Sakhanova. I have a YouTube there. I have to be better at too. So
Uh-huh. YouTube's always the hardest one for people, I've
I
heard.
know. It's so hard to keep it up. I don't know why. It's just like, and it's depending like when you do shows, when
Uh-huh.
like maybe the outcome will not be as you expect. You're like,
Yes.
man.
You're like, here's my whole prep. Ooh, yep, I'll save the last episode. We won't post that one.
Exactly. It's always a problem. It's
Awesome.
insane, but I know people love watching that. But yeah, so I will get better at that, YouTube. Yeah, and you have all the links if you need like my coaching application, whatever, like in the link in the bio, they say like and everything. So you can find the whole thing on Instagram basically.
Perfect. And we'll make sure we put all of those links in the show notes page. You guys, that's always on celestial.fit/podcast. If you're listening right away, it'll be at the top of the page. If you're listening in the future, scroll down to the category section. It is alphabetized. Not only will you find ways to connect with us, but you're also going to see a full summary of this episode, a bulleted list of the topics we covered, as well as episode timestamps so you can share it with your friends, your family, your teammates, let them know that you loved it and to listen also, or of course, go back and replay your favorite parts. It means so much to me and to the athletes when you guys share. So post, let us know you listened and yeah, reach out because it takes a lot, I think, to come on and share courageously a story. So please reach out to Liliana and thank her or tag us as you do. It means so much. So, with all that being said, I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.